What's up? Welcome back to the show. Today we're going to talk about appreciation, and there's really two main types of appreciation in real estate, and I'm going to kind of show you the differences between these two. So when you're ready to buy a property or invest in a property, you kind of know the differences of how this stuff works. So the first type is natural appreciation. This is something that we simply just don't have any control over. It's the value of your property as it appreciates over time. So it's going up in value, aka it's appreciating. So if you have a rental property and you hold it as long as you can, whatever you bought it for initially, say is $100,000, and you sold it 30 years later for $150,000, your natural appreciation on that property was $50,000 over 30 years, because that's just the market value of that property at that time when you decided to sell it. On the other hand, we have what's called forced appreciation, and this is when you forcibly or actually take part in increasing the value of that property. So ultimately, the real estate market is what is going to determine whether or not your property appreciates in value or depreciates in value. So there's two main reasons for natural appreciation and what determines the value of your property, and it just goes all the way back to economics 101. And reason number one is simply just supply and demand. If you are in the market right now to buy, you understand that prices have skyrocketed, or if you've just simply followed the market over the last year and a half, because there's just not that much inventory right now due to COVID and people not wanting to put their house on the market. And on the other side of that, interest rates have been at all-time lows. So all of a sudden, you've got a ton of qualified buyers and not much to choose from. So what does this mean? There are more qualified buyers per home right now. So you have a ton of buyers flocking to the same property and they all want to put an offer in. You're going to get in a multiple offer situation, which most of the time ends up being over asking price, which drives prices up. And just a little fun fact, this time last year, there were twice as many homes on the market. Yeah, the amount of inventory that buyers have to choose from in central Iowa at least has been cut in half. This will drive that natural appreciation up. So reason number two that drives natural appreciation, and again, this is something that we can't control, is one, inflation rates, and two, interest rates. And sometimes this can be a little daunting to an investor because they simply just don't have any control over the market. On the flip side, forced appreciation is something that the investor or consumer can control. So forced appreciation is when you directly impact or contribute to the present value of the home, such as a complete gut job, renovations, updates, new roof, new floors, new baseboards, new everything that you can think of under the sun. Now this is where it gets a little tricky though. Oftentimes people think, oh, I put $20,000 into a property, I should get at least $20,000 back. Well, you're gonna need to look at your market conditions because sometimes that's not always the case. So let's say you have a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, 1,000 square feet, and you purchase that place for $180,000, and everything else in your area that is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot home is also selling for $180,000. If you go put 20 grand into this place, you may not get that full 20 grand back just because the comps in your area are looking at, $180,000. Your house might be much nicer than everybody else's, but that does not mean that that is what it's worth. Ultimately, the market will tell us what it is worth. This is also what's called regression, and it's basically that term when everybody says you never want to be the nicest house on the block because everything around it brings your property down. Okay, on to the next one. So with everything said, forced appreciation is when you do work to the property. You can't just go tell your renter, that's paying $1,000 a month, hey, next month you're going to be paying $500 more and you're going to pay me $1,500 or more. No, you have to go and actually do stuff to increase the value of that and make it worth $1,500 per month. And natural and forced appreciation apply in most cases to all properties, but there is a little bit of a difference between investment properties or something that is being used as a rental than a single family home that somebody used just to occupy the home. Because if you've seen in previous videos of the investment properties, a lot of people will value those homes based on what they bring in for rent. So in this case, if you have a rental property or an investment property and you do some things to increase that forced appreciation, property value will go up. Because of that forced appreciation, you are able to increase your rents, which makes it more appealing to investors. So kind of to wrap all of this stuff up that I have just said into a little synopsis, the best way to get natural appreciation is just to buy and hold until that thing is paid off. And you won't get forced appreciation until you actually do some things to increase the value of that property. So theoretically, if you do both of these, you buy a place, you do some work to it, and you hold it for a long period of time, yes, there's a pretty good chance you're going to get the benefits of both forced appreciation and natural appreciation, which is going to drive your value up. And before I end this video, here's kind of a fun little something I'm going to throw in here. So here are kind of some trends that I have seen in other cities. I've listened to a lot of real estate podcasts and YouTube videos and stuff like that. And this is kind of what I've been hearing a lot of people doing recently. It involves appreciation, both enforced and in natural. What a lot of people are doing are watching where new construction is coming up, looking where businesses are coming into town, stuff like that. And they're not going and actually buying in those cities, they're buying in the surrounding cities or in the burbs, because property values are going way up in those cities that all of that action's going on, and that natural appreciation hasn't really hit everything around it yet. So what people are doing is they're buying them outside of those cities, buying them for 5-10 years, waiting for that big boom to hit, and then they decide to sell, and they didn't really put much into it besides the down payment, and they ended up selling it for 100% ROI. Now, this doesn't work in every market. I'm not saying it does, but it's just kind of a cool little thing that goes into what we just talked about. So that's it for today. Both the types of appreciation that are the most common in real estate, natural and forced. And with that said, I will see you next week.